Hello and welcome to Startup Hack. Today we are going to talk about global error handling in ASP.NET Core. So let's jump right in. Make sure to check out the link down below because we always provide the code samples that you can pull down and follow along so you can see in our project. Do you want to earn $100,000 a year? Do you want to become a software developer within just 3 months? With our amazing course and awesome tutors, you never have to worry about getting stuck. We help students to learn skills that companies want to hire. We are Startup Hack. Don't forget to subscribe our channel. So let's get started. Right, the standard way to implement exception handling in ASP.NET Core is using middleware. Middleware allows you to introduce logic before or after executing HTTP requests. You can easily extend this to implement exception handling, add a try-catch statement in middleware and return an error HTTP response. There are three ways to create middleware in ASP.NET Core. Number one is using request delegates. Number two, by convention. Number three, middleware. The convention-based approach requires you to define and invoke async method. So here's an exception handling middleware defined by convention. The exception handling middleware will catch any unhandled exceptions and return a problem detailed response. You can decide how much information you want to return to the caller. In this example, so I'm hiding the exception details. You also need to add this middleware to the ASP.NET Core request pipeline. So here's example. Right. ASP.NET Core 8 introduces a new exception handler section for managing exceptions. The built-in exception handler middleware uses exception handler implementations to handle exceptions. This interface has only one try handle async method. Try handle async method attempts to handle the specified exception within the ASP.NET Core pipeline. If the exception can be handled, it should return true. If the exception can't be handled, it should return false. This allows you to implement custom exception handling logics for different scenarios. So here's global exception handler implementation. So here's example. Configuring exception handler implementations, you need to do two things to add an exception handler implementation to the ASP.NET Core request pipeline. So number one is register the exception handler service with dependency injection. Number two, register the exception handler middleware within the request pipeline. You call the add exception handler method to register the global exception handler as a service. It's registered within a singleton lifetime, so be careful about injecting services with a different lifetime. I'm also calling add problem details to generate a problem detail response for common exceptions. So here's example. You also need to call use exception handler to add the exception handler middleware to the request pipeline. So here's example. Okay, now chaining exception handlers. You can add multiple exception handler implementations and they are called in the order they are registered. A possible use case for this is using exceptions for flow control. You can define custom exceptions like bad request exception and not found exception. They correspond with the HTTP status code you would return from the API. Here's a bad request exception handler implementation. So here's example. And here's a not found exception handler implementation. Here's example. You also need to register both exception handlers by calling add exception handler. So here's example. The bad request exception handler will execute first and try to handle the exception. If the exception isn't handled, not found exception handler will execute next and attempt to handle the exception. So here's example. Thank you for watching this video. Using middleware for exception handling is an excellent solution in ASP.NET Core. However, it's great that we have new options using exception handler interface. So don't forget to subscribe our channel and hit the bell icon for latest updates. To joining our course, you can simply go to our website called startuphack.com. Thank you.